This is APH's Access Academy, and today we continue our Braille 2000 series called Textbook Transcription from Start to Finish. We are set for day 3 of 6 in this series, which means we will learn how to use edit and format features of Braille 2000. So this includes pagination, table of contents, and type forms. Rosemary Baggett returns now to demonstrate and show us just how it's all done. Thank you for coming back and joining us again, Rosemary.
Thank you, Amy. So we are covering today, Amy said, we're going to explore Braille 2000 features for editing and formatting, pagination, table of contents, type forms, a little about book cover and jacket, and using the search and edit function throughout Braille 2000. Our first section on pagination. Braille 2000 makes it pretty easy to set up page numbers without direct entry. The commands for initial setup are the do page numbering, quick setup for, and then explore the options. We'll look at that in a moment. Within the options for setup, we typically choose textbook. You'll see that literary is in there. It's no longer recommended in format, but it still appears as a selection in Braille 2000. And then we'll actually do direct entry to enter the print and Braille page numbers. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a quick look here. This is the Braille file that we started setting up the other day. Has the title page on it, scrolling down. And I've noticed some people have asked about this. I typically use the Braille display. There is a print display option over here with the P. I'll show that for a moment. So we see the title page, and you'll see the running head at the top, but there are no page numbers. So going back to the top, and I'm going to put the Braille display back on because my brain works better with it. The command for setting the initial page numbers, D, Alt D for do, and then the P for page numbering. This is our dialog box. You'll see quick setup. These are the different selections. Most of the time we're using textbook. There are these other selections available. For right now, on the preliminary page, there's no print page number on the title page. We know on the preliminary pages, the transcriber generated pages at the beginning of the volume all have the prefix, the letter T in front. So I've entered T1. I click OK, and that appears in the lower corner of the page. Looking at that in print, see the T1 down there. Now that has basically set the whole file as T1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forever and ever, but we're just going to include those for the transcriber generate pages at the beginning, title pages, special symbols page, transcriber's note page. Right. That's about it for right now. I'm going to go back to the slides. That's your initial setup. So there are other options in Braille 2000 for managing page numbering. To advance to the next Braille page, you could always hit enter, 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 but it's quicker to do the do page control. And then there are some options there I'll show you. One is the default. If you just hit enter, do page control, which is C, and hit enter, it will take you to the next Braille page. And the continuation numbers here should be related to the print pages. No, I'm sorry. When it goes to the next Braille page, you'll see the next print page number once we start entering those, and Braille 2000 will add those continuation numbers automatically. That's if it's page 3, it's A3, B3, C3, many Braille pages as we need for the print. To advance to the next print page number, do Alt D, next print page is N. If you do that on line 25 of a Braille page, the command will insert a blank line on line 25 and advance to the next page, since you don't want to have a page break line on line 25. So there should be the demo for this, yes. Going back into Braille 2000. So here I am where we left off. This was the end of the transcriber's note page, and I see the table of contents starting up here, which we'll get to next, but I'm going to hit enter a few times to advance by line, and I'm going to enter do C. This apparently happens when you're using multiple screens, and I'm trying to keep these dialog boxes in the middle. And it says to next page, and I just hit OK, and we jump to the next Braille page. Now I'm in the table of content. This Braille page number here is T7. That's the end. The transcriber's note page is the last transcriber generated page I want. Most agencies, in my experience, want the P pages, which would be where a table of contents starts, to be on a right facing page. That would be an odd facing page, an odd number page. So what I'm going to do right now is insert another Braille page. Alt D, do C for page control, hit enter, and I now have a blank page. That's the back side of T7, and that is now T8. So that was all to set up the table of contents location, which we will look at next. Any questions on that so far?
Excuse me, we're good to go. We did have a question just asking about the cost and license for the Braille 2000. And because we are helping each other out in the chat, someone quickly, an attendee, knew exactly how to find that information and dropped it in. And so I think that we are great.
Okay, thank you. All right, table of contents. Look at some of the just the points for the setup in the first volume. We'll set up the entire table of contents in the first volume. So I've referenced the formats, so you're familiar with that. Headings. On the first volume only, you'll have a volume 1 and transcribers note indicators above the beginning of the content, and however much fits in that volume, and then you drop down to other volumes. I'll show that later. This is just kind of basically information from formats. Braille 2000 has a number of features to help set up the table of contents. It will add your guide dots between the entry and the page number on the far right of the page. It retains the 6-cell distance between the text and the margin. It keeps line 25 blank. I'll show those controls for setup in the demo. It is important to check and proofread because somewhere in the conversion, the translation from NIMAS to Braille 2000, there are line commands, complex things that just will sometimes get missed somehow when it's brought in. So always check and proofread it, and I'll show a little bit of that in this next file. Sidebars and other displayed material in the table of contents need to retain the 6-cell right margin. And if there's a command for that with a sidebar, I do it manually, and I'll show you that and kind of why. We also retain capitalization and font attributes in the table of contents. So setting up the table of contents. I'm going to show a number of things that I need to do to pre-edit. One of the features that happens often, and it's got to do, I think, with the print layout. We talked about that the other day, how the variations in print design in textbooks just don't always compute when we're translating into Braille. So you'll see that oftentimes the page number for a section in the table of contents follows immediately after the lesson material without a space, and that could be problematic. Whoops. So I'm going to show that by highlighting a portion to convert, This is the setup for table of contents, which I'll show in a minute. Do, Alt-D, line number, L. There's a selection for adding the guide dots. Then we'll go to auto contents and look at the options there. And again, check your Braille copy carefully. Where was Braille 2000 again? So we are in this file that we're going to set up the beginning of. First of all, the table of contents in this particular book begins on print page number Roman numeral 3. So thus far, I have not entered a print page number. We start to do that here. In the page setup, we have the page numbering control box that we already looked at before. Already selected textbook. I'm going to change my Braille page to P1, P for preliminary, the first page in the title of the first page in the table of contents. The first of those preliminary pages is typically the table of contents. My print number, I'm going to enter the Roman numeral number 3. Okay. That has now inserted Roman numeral 3, and P1 at the bottom. Looking at that in print readers. Okay. And here are the continuation numbers. This is now A, I for continuation of print page 3. That's the page settings. Let's go back and look at the actual table of contents. This is a relatively short one and simple one. And I'll show some examples a little bit later of other issues you might run into. But in this table of contents, first of all, hopefully you can see the blue shading. This is a Braille 2000 feature when importing NIMAS files. The blue shading is called a block, and it is used wherever there's a nested list or a table, or what Braille 2000 interprets as a nested list or a table. I found out that some of the, I don't know how clear this is for a low vision reader. The other day we tried this, and when it blew up the screen on multiple monitors, the blue shading in the background, that is the default, was way too light. So called Bob Stepp this morning and found out he has actually created a way to change that. And I'll show you that right now in case anyone using the blocks has a hard time seeing them. Go to adjust, up here, adjust, display. And up here in under system colors, there were default colors. I changed that earlier. I'm not using the default colors. That was originally selected. Now it's unselected. I come into the item box, the drop-down menu. I could adjust colors for all of these things. I'm going to go to block, and the B is for background, F is for the foreground. The background is the blue, so I'm going to select that. And over here, right now I have light cyan in there. And for example, I'll change it to light green, sorry. And click OK. And you see that the shading has changed color. I'm going to leave it there for now. And I'll show you what I typically do. Because I prefer to work not with the blocks, I've found there can be a little bit of problem editing things within the blocks, and most of the time I need to do that. So I remove the shading, and the way I do that is I'm going to select the file for this first block. Now I typically do this for the whole file, but I'll leave it for right now. All right, it goes that far. Do edit as plain text. And it basically removed that. In other words, I'm not going to edit it as a block. I'm going to edit it as plain text. That's my preference. So You can do whichever works for you, but hopefully you'll now know how to find it and how to change the background if you like. Look at how the table of contents is set up here. First of all, I'm going to go to the top of this page. I only need one blank line between the running head and the centered title. You can see here, right away, I see a problem. Looking right here, I edited this on a file the other day. I did not edit it on this particular file. When Braille 2000 imported the NIMAS file, in the version I'm using, 2.275, there was not an option to substitute, to remove single quotes. So it has read all the apostrophes as single quotes. And in this Word, that looks like in print, what's missing, this is why I do my proofreading in Braille 2000 and not just print, because that looks like an apostrophe, but Braille 2000 translated it as a single quote. And you also see that there's no space between the content of that section and the page number. So I'm going to edit both of those right now. I'm going to go back to my Braille that I'm comfortable with. I'm going to edit the entire, if I see that apostrophe in there converted to a single quote, that tells me it's through the whole file. And again, this will not be a problem in newer versions of Braille 2000, or you have the option of doing that change up front. But in this version, it's there. So I'm going to select the whole file, Control-Shift-N, and I'm going to go in to the search and find, back over here, and enter the apostrophe. Enter the single quote command under find. I'm going to find that. I'm going to replace it with the apostrophe, and I'm going to replace all in the highlighted portion. Okay. And here is the problem that you're going to run into. It has effectively removed, it's moved the dialog box off here someplace. So I would say if there are any questions right now, I have to shut this down and pull it up again. And I'd say if there are any questions, I'll take those now while I'm doing this. Apologize.
Sure. I think that one of the things that we can do, is it okay if while you work on that, could we go back and just ask a question about the pagination one, just
Sure.
about making pages and so forth? Okay. For that one, let's see, are page numbers added automatically to the file?
Yes, they are. And I will, well, put it this way. When I started the T pages, it automatically made the whole file. You mean print pages, probably. In this conversion, yes. Let me show this. I've pulled this back up. I'll have the other one. So if you notice here, I inserted this Braille page number. The print page number, sorry, for the preliminary pages. But once we get into the print, they are there.
Okay.
Now, they're not fail-proof. And thank you for that question, by the way, whoever asked that, because that's one thing I needed to mention. You still need to edit. You still need to proofread. For some reason, maybe it's the line break command that's in Braille 2000, which probably has about 2.5 million commands in it, I'm guessing. It is brilliant, but it sometimes that does not compute, and I'll check my page numbers as I go. So you may be able to see that later. All right, and back to this. Please God, this will work here. I'm going to select this section again. I'm going to select I'm selecting the whole, I'm selecting the whole table of contents to eliminate that problem you see with the page number. Not having a space in front of it. So there it is. Because I need a space in front of the print page number throughout most of this file, I'm going to enter the numeric indicator and go to the replace function. And in this highlighted portion, every place there is a numeric indicator, I now want a space followed by a numeric indicator. And I'm just going to do replace all in that section. and go back up. Let me turn the interpret back on. Turn this back on. And you'll see it's added. Now, I have a slide. See how the page numbers now are spaced from the text. However, I've also looked at my print portion, my print page, which is crucial because not all of the numbers in that file are print page numbers. So here is the print copy of the table of contents. And every place in here that there is a number finishing up the label for the section, Braille 2000 has joined those numbers up. So I have color 10 version 1 is on print page 40. And I'm going to go back and show you that for color 10 version 1 under January, we have it has, let me show you in print. Color 10 version, the space was, I just put a space in front of all the print page numbers, but it had already joined 1 and 40, so it looks like 140. So again, I have to be editing this based on my print table of contents. I go in here, I delete that double space. I keep that 1 for version 1. I enter the numeric indicator again to make that 40. And I'm going to have to do that every place that I see that was an issue in this title page in print. It's not, it was a quicker save. It was a quicker fix to do it this way than to go in and edit every page number individually, which is why I did it the way I did. So I'm going down, looking at print, and I know that page 50, because I wrote myself a note earlier. Going to enter it here. If there are any questions right now about what I'm doing, feel free to ask those as I edit these.
Sure. I think the only other item that I have in here that's about pages and so forth, would you be able, before we move on quickly, show how to remove a page break? It says, can you show how to remove a page break?
If I could do that after this, that'd be helpful.
That will be great. We will postpone it. Thank you.
That's a good question. I did not. All right, so pretty much 63. There's just 2 more on here. And the double space helps here. That tells me, this pink section here tells me, okay, something's wrong. Yes, look at the print. It should say fraction splat game 1, page 74. And that's it. I've also come to the end of the page numbering and back to the print copy. This is also part of the table of contents here. Back to this. This section down here is, I think I showed this slide already. Yes. Extra material in the table of contents that's not showing page numbers needs to retain that 6-cell margin at the right of the page, so we know it's in table of contents. So this I do manually, and that's the material that's showing up right here. This problem string workspace, so on. So that's still part of the TOC, I'll call it. I'm going to go back to the top, and now we're going to let Braille 2000 do its thing. I've done my pre-editing. These are my main sections. This book is set up by month, and then these are the subsections, subheadings. You do all of your spacing with your nested list spacing. As much as possible, make sure you've done that before setting up the table of contents. I'm now in D, P for page numbering. This is where I entered the page numbers for the actual pages. I'm going to go into, actually, I'm sorry, it's not page number, it's D line, DL. DL. Now I'm going to give the line numbers. For this, I do not do manual entry. I'm using auto contents. Oh, back to manual entry. I want to select with guide dots. So I'm telling it to set up my table of contents with the guide dots. I'm going to take the paragraph's last word, which I know now is a number, the print page number for that section. And down here, just in case the last word is, we don't want it to take the last word within a page number. So I'm going to select this section. Sometimes you'll have numbers like R23. I'll show another file that has that. And I would keep except letter prefix. But right now I'm screening and just accepting the numbers 1, 2, 3, and so on. I'm going to click OK. And Braille 2000 has, I am so sorry. This has not happened like this before. But it just did that again. It froze it. Okay, Amy, I'll take a question. But you can see within here what it's done. I'm going to pull up the, oh, there it goes. Maybe it just wanted me to click outside of there. So now I can go up to the top of the table of contents. I'm going to run through and proofread. This is September. Everything looks good. I will look at this carefully with the print. This line was too long, and so it did the run over. The run overs don't always happen if there's a lot of text in a table of contents. So this shows what it does. It left line 25 blank. Everything looks pretty good. There's another one where the line was long, and Braille 2000 automatically set the run over for the nested list. So I'm going to come down here. This is the last part of the table of contents. I need to keep a 6-cell margin to the right. So I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to go to the margin and backspace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anything that is to the right of that needs to be moved down to the next line. And I just did that by entering. Hit end, go to the end of my line. Corner is too long to fit on that, shouldn't be there. So this gives me the 6-cell margin. Now that would go for boxed material, any kind of displayed material that appears on the print title page. Do that way. I'm going to save that. I can take that. I'm not going to take that other question right now. Let's see if there are any questions on the table of contents, and then I can.
Well, I'm not able to confirm if it's on table of contents or not. It's very lively and a lot going on, and some people answer questions for each other, and it's very lively. So let me see if I believe this is with table of contents. So let's see. So should there be dots between text and page numbers? That was one of the questions, and someone thought that perhaps, but okay.
Yes, and that's why Braille 2000 enters them automatically. Otherwise, before this conversion, some of us, like myself, are entering them individually, and that would be in the under formats.
Okay. Okay, this is also another question we'll ask really quick. I'll see if I can insert this in. Does NIMA's file have same issue of showing 2 different numbers close to each other, or is it separated by leading dots? Do you understand that question, or do we need more information?
Not sure what the leading dots would means, but I mean, it's the term. I'm not thinking what that is, unless Liz happens to know. But I would say, Amy, just read the first sentence of that, please, again.
Perhaps, okay. Does NIMA's file have same issue of showing 2 different numbers close to each other, or is it separated by leading dots?
Well, the 2 numbers close to each other, that part I can answer. Basically, what you saw is an example of what can happen. I think it largely depends on the print. I've done projects where the print number is spaced and where numbers are spaced accurately. In this particular one, I don't know why. That's just the way it was read, and it's because of the print page setup, which varies from print book to print book. So
okay, and then do we just want to confirm? So there should be no dots between text and page numbers.
No, there actually is. That's what these dots are.
Okay, thank you. We just need, okay,
five
thank you.
dots, yeah. Yeah, and this would be in formats again, but here's the end of there's one space between the text and the row of cell 5 dots, and then one space between the dots and the page number. And this, when there's a 3-digit page number, Braille 2000 will automatically move everything over. I love this feature. I remember the days when I was entering all that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to go on. There's one other section with one other slide for table of contents, and that is about volume division. There was a question wanting to cover how to divide volumes. Obviously, our little print books are not going to fit in one Braille volume, so they need to be divided. We always divide per formats. We divide between chapters or sections. If a chapter is too big to fit all in one volume, go to the sections. And I use the table of contents to help decide where to end it, which is why I'm putting that here. On the title page, we use continuation numbers where they're relevant. That's got to do with pagination. And two places where that might be, that continuation number would be if you're on page 50 in the file, and page 50 in your print book finishes up one section of a chapter, and then the next section starts right below. Most of the time, the new sections start on new print pages, which makes it easier. But there are times in maybe an upper level book where the next section begins on the same print page. And then on your title page, you're going to need to change that page number. You're going to have to say, okay, the first file goes to page 50 or B50, and the next volume starts on page C50. There are the continuation numbers are often affected by the table of contents. So I will go back in here and break this volume. Now right here, I can answer that question about the page numbers right here. This is already Braille 2000 setting up print page 1. Now there are two ways I can do that. One, I have to create a little space around it, and I can just highlight and delete that page break number, or the page break. So that's what I did, and now I'm going to put it back because I want it. And it put back a couple things when I don't want those, so I'm going to delete this one. I don't understand why, I just know it happens, and I just fix it. Another way to remove the page number would be to go to the annotations. We talked about those the other day, the little triangle, annotations, print page number. I'm going to right click on that. It says it's entered a print page number, and I'm going to remove that. Okay. And now I'm going to do Control Z to put it back. So we're going to go on to the page break section. Before I break the volume, let's just say I've gotten through the table of contents. My next part of the book is T1. So I'm going to do Alt D C to next page, and that's going to take me down to the next page. Now, what is September doing here? This is actually the page where I'm supposed to have hide the running head, because I'm entering the title of the book, which I'm not going to do. I did do that the other day. And since we're on this next section, to do that, I would do page break C, and I would select hide running head. We're always going to hide the running head on the first page of text because we're going to enter the title of the book. I don't remember the complete title right now, but just for our purposes, since it's a sample file, we did that the other day already. I noticed the print page 1 has already been entered by Braille 2000. I'm going to say yay. The Braille page number, however, is at P5. Now that I'm into the text, I want that to be, instead of P5 for preliminary 5, I want it to be 1. So I'm going to go back here. I think I can do it anywhere on the page. Back to the page numbers. Alt D P. It's showing the print number. That's accurate. That's what I want it to be. I don't want the Braille page number to be P5. I want it to be Braille page 1. Okay. And there it is at the bottom. So that pretty much takes care of the pagination, I think. And we noticed that our little apostrophe here has been changed to an apostrophe in Braille instead of the closing quote. So I'm not going to obviously transcribe this whole file right now, but let's go to what I'm going to do is look in my print table of contents. And I've already done this book, so I know that I pretty much finished, let's say I finished at about after sections. I'm going to break the volume between sections. So I broke it between October and November. So when I'm transcribing, I will have already gone through the file. I've gotten up to print page 23, and that's where I'm going to break. Now don't have that file right now. This is a sample. So I'm just going to set my set a bookmark right there. And I'm going to do a search for, right now, I'm going to do a search for November. I'm going to take it from the cursor, and it takes me down to page 23. And we see the page 23 there. Now, let's just say that this is the end of my volume 1. It's not, but it's the end. I'm going to center, I've set a keyboard command in Braille 2000 to center text, and I'll show that. I think it's either tomorrow or the 5th day.
If I could just interject for a moment while we're working through that demonstration, would you be able, Rosemary, just to unplug just to do a sample, please unplug your headset and let's see if it's pulled through your computer this time, and I will see how things go. I'm going to ask a question to you at this point, and let's see how the audio is.
I'm going outside, so I hope it works. Let me know which is better, and I can.
Yes, it is. It is noticeably louder. So we'll troubleshoot through this at this point that way. Thank you for your flexibility. If this is a time, can I ask you a question, or should I wait until you are through the procedure you're working on?
If it's related to table of contents, but right now I'm ready to go on to the next section. So if we could hold on, that'd be great.
To hold on?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
I will hold the question. Thank you.
Okay, so right now we're just talking about how to break volumes. So I've entered end of volume 1 in transcriber's notes, which needs to be a line below the text on the final page. This is another page. Well, I'm back to Alt-D or do C for page control. I'm going to enter right there, and notice that Braille 2000 moved me to the next print page and next Braille page. I'm sorry. And this is the beginning of the section that I would want to put in volume 2 that I'm going to start volume 2 with. So I'm going to set myself a bookmark here and go back. I'm going to look at my last, my final print page is 22. My final Braille page is 24, which is not what it would be, but that's what it is for this demo. So back to my title page, I went Control Home. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to count, say, okay, let's say I have T1 through T8 will be my transcriber generated pages. P1 through P4, I think there's probably more. I'm going to go down again and look at the table of contents. How many pages is that? It's on P1, 2, looking at the bottom right, the page 3, 4. So there's my closing preliminary page number. So back to the top, home. I have the T1 through 8 pages in there, P1 through P4 for the preliminaries, and 1 through, these are Braille page numbers, so I'm going to say 24, because that's what in this file is the last page. My print page numbers, I've already entered Roman numeral 1 through 4, and 1 through 22. Okay, so that's what I want it to be. Now I'm going to say save this file. So I've saved my volume 1. I'm still going to have to get rid of that stuff at the end. that would be next subsequent volume, but I'm not doing that until I also save it someplace else. I've done that in the past and it's not good. So I do save as. And I'm just going to say volume 2. So this is now a new file. And I'm going to, it's a setup for my volume 2. I just saved it as volume 2. So right away, I'm going to change the volume number here from 1 to 2. I'm going to go in and change the Braille page numbers just to make sure when I look at the table of contents, when I look at the title page at the end of this transcription, I know, no, I did not yet enter the final Braille page number. I'm going to go in and change my page numbers. I'm going to be starting this file on page 23. I'll leave the open one blank. And now I'm going to see where in the preliminaries, in the subsequent volumes, I'm not going to have the extra title, the second title page. I'm going to go through right now and delete that. That's only in the first volume. I'm going to keep my special symbols page. Some agencies prefer a blank page on the back of T1. Not all do, so I'm going to do it like this. Here's my special symbols page. Here's my, now I'm going to go in and edit these later based on what material I discover in this volume. There may be some editing in the transcriber's notes page. I'm at T5. I want the table of contents to start on a facing page, so an odd number page. So I do have a blank T6. Here's my table of contents. Now I'm in volume 2 now. And volume 2 starts on print page. Yeah, so I would put a continued here. It's a little slow because I have so much stuff open, I guess. So I'm going to delete the September and October portions of this table of contents, which were only shown in volume 1. And I'm beginning here with November. That's the table of contents. Now I'm going to go down and I'm also going to, a couple ways I can do this. Since I know that the print page I want to start volume 2 with is page 23, I'm going to just scroll down and highlight as I go. And I'm looking at my top right corner of the page here for the 23. I should have done this in print. And I'm going to delete all of that here. And I like to do it this way. When I do this, I've brought in the page number, but often I have material up here that's been carried over from the previous volume, like the title. And sometimes there's a chapter or a unit heading with continued. And rather than redo all of that, I just noticed that this says print page 1. That's not accurate. This is print page 23. It is accurate, but I want to delete that line because I want to keep my text up here. You can, different ways to do it. So I've deleted that, and right away I'm going to go back in and make sure that this is print page 23. So I do Alt D for do P, the page number, and I'm going to, now notice here, because of something, oh, yeah, Braille 2000 is calling this P4. That's not what I want it to be. It's actually print page 1 in this volume. And then, sorry, Braille page 1. And then the print page is going to be 23. A lot of stuff on pagination here. All right, now I also caught the fact that, whoops, my preliminary pages end on an odd number page, P3, and I want them to end on an even number page so that the text will start on a right-facing page. So I'm going to just do Alt D, C. Actually, let me show you now. I'm going to do Alt D, N. This is the other one I didn't show. Alt D, N is for a next print page. No, I'm sorry. That's not what I want. Should have done what I said first. Alt D, C, go to the next page. Just scroll down enough to leave that blank. And now I have my volume 2 starting on page 23. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back into the volume 1 that I just switched over from. I just did Alt F-O for open, file open. Here it shows up as a recently used file. I'm going to, oh no, I don't want the volume 2, I want the volume 1 or working file. Here's the volume we started off with. I've already finished this. I want to get rid of the pages at the end. So I'm going to do a search in the volume. I don't need to enter all of it and just go from the top. That takes me to the end of volume 1. Here's this all this stuff that I just transferred to and saved in another file. So I'm going to select the end of the file, Control-Shift-End, and delete it. Only because I've already saved it someplace else. And for some reason that entered this page number from the end that I don't want. So I'm going to delete that. And there I have that file. Okay. That was a long one. And now I'm happy to take any questions.
In just a moment, you mentioned that, and then, okay. Each volume should have their own table of contents question mark. What about the main book table of contents page, even split into multiple volumes and or table of contents?
Thank you. Yes, let me go back here. I'm going to show, there's two, there might be 2 parts to that question. If not, I'm going to make it 2 parts. Here is the second volume. Once I've established, I'm going to go down to the table of contents in the second one. Yes, each volume has its own table of contents for what's in that volume. The entire table of contents is placed in the first volume. And so I'm going to check here and see how many pages. Well, actually, no, I don't do it here. This is not a finished file, so I'm going to go to the first volume. But it starts on, where does this start? November and December, this would not actually be just for print page 3. It's going to be a continuation of the table of contents because the whole thing was in the first volume. So I'm going to call this A3. It's got the continuation letter in it. Kind of want to check with the first volume and make sure that it was actually September and October all fit on one page. And then I'm going to enter that A3 on my title page as this is volume 2, so it does not have 1 through 4. It has it begins with A3. I don't yet know how much of this table of contents is going to go in this new volume. So I'm going to leave an option of saying, okay, this goes from A3 to B3. That's where the continuation numbers come in. Now, going back to the table of contents, you'll see Braille 2000 enters the continuation numbers automatically. This one is A, Roman numeral 3 at the top. This one is B, Roman numeral 3 at the top. But I have to enter them on the title page. So going back to the first volume, yes, this is in the table of contents. I now know that in the center, I'm in the table of contents in the first volume. So in volume 1, I have September and October. When I get down to November, oh, perfect. This is on A3. This is going to be the rest. in transcriber's notes, I put other volumes. Now, if you do a whole transcription before you submit it, you can break down each. There would be a breakdown, like let's say January was started volume 3, and I knew that in advance. I might say, this is volume 2, this is volume 3. If you're doing it that way, I'm typically sending in files, sending in volumes as I go. So hopefully that answered that question. And thank you for that question, because I was supposed to cover that, meant to cover that.
Let me ask this other question here, because there's a few other things that have come in. Do you or can you remove the running head on page 4 since the page is blank?
You could. I guess it would be if that's an agency. I typically leave them in, but I'll show that again. If you need to do that, page 4, page 4, okay, T4, no, it might have changed. Let's say T8 here.
Mhm.
So the way I do that is I'm going to go back to the page before and delete and bring that. Okay, yeah, and so I deleted page T8. Now I need page T8 if I want the table of contents to be on an odd number page in the file. And just to be certain, you can always look over here on the left. This tells you the page in the file. It's an odd number page. I need to finish the transcriber generated pages on an even number page. So I do Alt D for do, C for page control, page break. It's going to take me to the next page, and I'm going to select hide running head. Now I did this for the first page of the Braille book. If you need to do it, if that's an agency preference, then there you go. I have no running head there.
Okay, the only other question that I want to insert here before we move on is a basic question from just someone who's beginning as a transcriber. Which page numbers are preceded with the P character? The Braille pages of the print pages, question mark, does P stand for print? Am I correct that the Braille page numbers appear bottom of page and print page numbers are at the top?
Format. It's the preliminary pages, and that would be probably in formats under section 2.
Okay, thank you kindly.
And so that would be in there. For the purpose of this project, it was just the table of contents, but there's other material in a book sometimes that is put in there. And again, that would be a formats thing. There will be one sample of that later that I of an additional material that would go in those preliminary pages. So hopefully that answers that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And we are good to move on if you're ready for type forms.
Oh, type forms. That was the longest section, the table of contents, because I had a couple things in there. The type forms, otherwise known as emphasis, type forms in NIMAS file reflect print design, may need to be edited to align to formats requirements. Now, the Braille Blaster conversion, the thing I like about that, and I showed that on day 1, how to use Braille Blaster as an intermediary step between NIMAS file and Braille 2000. It allows, I'm just going to show this here during this slide. It allows you to change some type forms as you're importing the file. Again, because oh, I just opened something I don't need. Because of the way NIMAS files are reading the print, and print design uses a lot of emphasis, a lot of bold type or color in headings and other parts of the text, just for what some call eye candy. It's not really, it would actually be more confusing than not. So it's possible to remove emphasis when you're using Braille Blaster from all headings, from list prefixes, and which is often the headings in the table, and that's often generated as a nested list. And so the headings in the table would be called the list prefixes. So you want to remove your emphasis from those. You want to remove your emphasis from alphabetic reference entry words. And we'll cover those more later. So that was all demonstrated on day one. Whoops. Use my mouse and it advances me when I don't want it to. I did want to show, I apologize, I'm scrolling and it's, all right. Let's go back and look for a minute at formats. I wanted to just show briefly in here, the type forms are under section 5 in font attributes. And this is really helpful, 1.1.6, from a Braille reader's perspective. Typeform indicators in Braille do not emphasize, they do not draw our attention to material, they simply indicate that the print shows emphasis. So we don't always emphasize material in Braille that's emphasized for decorative purposes. We don't decorative. We also do not emphasize material such as a heading when format serves the purpose of emphasis to the Braille reader. Two main reasons to use typeform indicators: to show the Braille reader a situation in which emphasis is used in print. Foreign words, for example, are sometimes emphasized, as well as paragraph headings. And to give the Braille reader an accurate rendition of the print text in situations where the type of print emphasis might be mentioned by the print reader. For example, a teacher might mention a blue box or a word in bold. This is why we need to be reading the text around the material before we decide whether to bold, whether to italicize or not. So that basically says when to use type forms, and it's not nearly as much as in print. So I'm going to do a quick demo here. Which file? There is one other file. Yeah, I'll take a quick question here. I'm going back into my Braille 2000 files. I need to open one that got closed out when I had to close it. Any questions thus far, Amy?
No, we are good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this is another partial table of contents in a chemistry book. And for the purpose of this course, I just opened to this page. This also shows the table of contents for the student handbook. Now you'll notice that they read, for example, the title, Elements Handbook, is, and they put that in bold type. So I'm just going to change it manually. It's a simple fix. I don't need to select a whole section. I'm going to do that for each of these headings. Now we'll cover headings on day 4, and I would not leave these headings like this and where they're placed. But for right now, I'm just going to remove the emphasis, and it's just in the headings. Then I get to the end of the content section, and these are supplemental sections in the back of the book after. Let's just go back here. So I have an Elements Handbook in this reference resource book. I have a Math Handbook. I have reference tables. And then in the table of contents, we're going to take things like the supplemental material and have a blank line between that and whatever precedes it. Now, in the print text, the supplemental practice was in bold type. That was for emphasis in print. It does not need to be in Braille. And that was a opening passage indicator. So I want to look. I'm going to remove the opening bold passage indicator, but I also have to find out where's the closing. Well, it's over here at the end of the line, in between the text and the page number, which is also not spaced as in the other book. So I'm going to go in and remove it. Now, as I'm removing it, let me explain what's happening there. There's a closing bolt indicator right here in the middle. And I'm going to go to the next. I moved my mouse down here to delete this one from glossary. And you'll see what happened was that word jumped up to the, okay, now the next word. The reason things are jumping up onto the line when I remove the bold type indicator is there has not, Braille 2000 in this case has not entered a page return on line break indicator, calling page return. It shows you how old I am, my typing. So I'm going to have to enter that, hit enter to move it to the next line. I've basically gone through it. Now there's another way I could have done that. I could have simply, because all of the bold type was in this section, I'm not going to go back and, if that was all in here, I would simply highlight the whole section. Now, yeah, do adjust emphasis. And in this dialog box, I have the option of applying it to the highlighted text, and it's already highlighted because they knows I've highlighted text. If I can choose to do the whole file, and if you don't select highlighted text, it will do your whole file for you. So everything becomes plain. I could make everything italicized, bolded, or underlined, but then you have to go back and edit that because depending on how the file is imported, you could have passage indicators where you need to have word indicators and vice versa. So for taking a whole section that's in bold type or italics and you don't want that type there, this is pretty easy. Everything becomes plain, highlighted text, and it's done. I had already done it manually, but it would look like this had I done it just that way. So, of course, I'm going to go back and before I would complete this file and I would complete the table of contents. But that basically covers what I have for type forms, unless there are questions.
I'm not seeing any further questions about type forms at this time.
Book cover and jacket. This is taken from formats, and I just wanted to describe what this is information. And this, for someone asked earlier about the P pages, the preliminary pages. Yes, that's covered in this slide. Okay, I'll just read this from formats. Include information from the front or back covers of a book only in the first volume of the Braille edition. There may or may not be information, and you have to look at your print book for that. The cover or jacket material is inserted as the first front matter page, P1, and no print page number is used. Include a transcriber's note to explain this format. So in a transcriber's note, for example, the following material is from the back cover of the book or the front, matter, whatever it is, put that in a transcriber's note. So the fact that it says the first front matter page P1 means my table of contents is going to start on after that, following that. In the book I did, the only material I had in the preliminary pages was the table of contents, but this is an example of something else that would be in there. And what to include book jacket or inside cover information not included with the text. For example, list of author's work, author's biography, etc. Do not include advertising materials. And so I have a copy of the back cover. The number corner book from transcribing does not have any material in the back cover, so I would not use that. Don't need to do that here. This is the chemistry book. This is the back cover of the book. Now, and so basically in my NIMAS file, especially if this is extensive, I could do a search, and I would do search for and pick something from this page. And I tried this, why does spinning the steel wool intensify the glow? And do the search and search for it in the file. It did not appear in the file. I don't have that NIMAS file open because it pulls so much. I did show it, I think, the other day for something, but it does not appear in the file. And the reason for that is when I started working the chemistry book, I was working with a different copyright date, and that was discussed on day one. NIMAC will, if you notify them that you have a copyright date on your print copy, is not the same as the NIMAS file. You can either find it or they'll get one to you quickly. So I now have the updated NIMAS file for this book, but when I was doing my initial volume, this didn't appear. So what did I do? I went to the P page one and I just did direct entry. But that is how you would do that. So at that point, if we have any questions, those are the demos.
Okay. I am going back to a question that we had earlier. Just one moment to see where we are at. So while I look for that, is Braille 2000 tool, does it convert only to English or any other language as well?
There's quite a few conversions. I think that was on day one. It does French, Spanish, German, but while I get there, I'll do that.
Great.
I can do that. Actually, no, that was what they convert. Yeah.
Okay.
Source file. Let's just say I was going to open a new source file. Open source file.
And would you like another question, or are you working through a demo?
Well, I was just going to show this quickly.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
Well, I would actually need to import a file for that. I don't need to import it. I think it just asks me, let's say I'm taking this NIMAS file and opening it. Here in the transcription settings box that opens, I can select English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, provisional guidance, Spanish. So I'm not going to do that right now because I've already done that, but hopefully that answers that question.
On the chemistry back cover, could you show what you would include or eliminate?
Oh, thank you. Yes, in this case, this material, I would not use this front cover, back cover information. Let's take a look quick again at what format says. I'm going to look at formats where it says, oh, I picked the wrong page of formats. A back cover. That both open. Did I look at that? So it was on the slide. Yes. Well, material that I wouldn't cover here. I looked first in the front of the book to see if this was on the front of the book, and it was not. So I compared with what was in the front of the book. I did include this list here, Inspired Chemistry, and the list of, well, I think I cut off part of the cover when I was taking a picture, but this material will be included. And this Encounter the Phenomenon is a feature that runs throughout the book, but this particular material was not in the front. So that pretty much everything on there. But this slide is very helpful with that. Include book jacket or insight. Cover information not included within the text, and give some examples and what not to include.
Okay. Would you be able, in these extra few minutes here, show how to remove a page break and correct me if we already touched upon that?
I did that a couple times throughout.
Okay, then we are set on that.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best to read through this particular question here. If we somehow are introduced to any error in Braille 2000 while editing the file, does the software have any validation tool which can parse the file and validate the file wholly by the completion?
Thank you. I love how these questions are filling in little gaps. There is a place in Braille 2000, for example, well, it has to do with the XML file. Now, Bob Stepp would be happy to answer that question in detail. It was a very technical answer. And the place where I ran into it was, for example, with Typeform emphasis. I showed the page from a Braille Blaster import here that allows you to remove emphasis from all these different headings. I will say nothing's going to be foolproof, because again, as a transcriber, you need to look at what the print text is trying to convey and not just the design. But Braille 2000 does have a feature where you can change some, like certain types of headings as you go for the whole file. But from my understanding, it involves learning how to read the XML file, which I'm sure there are brains out there that would enjoy that. Mine is not one of them, and it's not, I can do it a whole lot faster, just do it as I go through. Now that's with emphasis, and I'm not sure if there were other kinds of errors. I wouldn't call that an error, that's just that would just be a design aspect. So I'm not sure what's meant by error, if someone wants to clarify that.
Hi, Rosemary. This is Liz from the NIMAC. I just wanted to jump in because I think a couple questions I'm seeing at the end are kind of related more to NIMUS and are, I think, maybe even being sent in by NIMUS conversion vendors. So I also wanted to touch on something you had on your screen, which I think we talked about a little on day one, but the idea that the NIMUS specification does not require that publishers submit anything about the book cover to us. So you're not necessarily going to have cover images in their NIMUS file set. So that's why it's important for you as a transcriber to get a hold of that print book, at least the images of that print book, so that you have access to that cover information, because we don't necessarily know when it is and isn't included. It's not required. So I did want to touch on that. And someone did mention in the chat that the copyright information is included as a PDF page in the NIMUS file set. So that part is available to you, but not the cover images aren't necessarily. And I think the error question maybe has more to do with the way that NIMUS files themselves work. And there is a validation tool for when you generate a NIMUS file, but that is a completely separate thing from when you're transcribing a Braille document and you're going through as the transcriber and proofreading. That's a completely different process. So I did want to clarify that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, we are delighted that you are with us today. I can share with you that is coming tomorrow that we will be heading into headings, lists, tables, and alphabetic references will be what we dive into tomorrow.